For the second time, the Gregory party leaves Los Angeles Harbor on a cruise to the Magic Island. Only a few short months ago, Mrs. Gregory, Captain Tex Bradford, and Jerry Hall sailed from this harbor in search of a mysterious island in the South Pacific. An island on which a little white girl was supposed to be living with a strange colony of people. We know this was true, for Mrs. Gregory found her daughter Joan, now 15 years old, on the weird island where she had spent 14 of her 15 years. 2 boats were lost in attempts to escape from the island. And finally, a stolen submarine made it possible for our friends to reach Los Angeles. As they leave the harbor behind in the inky blackness of the early morning, Joan and her mother are talking in their cabin on the boat.
I did not see much of your beautiful country, Mother.
I know, Joan, dear, and I'm sorry. But Captain Bradford and I agreed that you and Jerry would be much safer with us than if you had remained in Los Angeles.
That is possibly true, and of course I am happy to be with you, Mother. But it all seems so foolish.
Foolish?
Yes.
In what way, Joan?
Anything useless is foolish, is it not?
Well, yes, but...
And this voyage is quite useless.
How can you say that, Joan? Don't you realize that we're performing a real service to the world by returning to that island and putting those scientists under control?
I realize that such might be the case if you could do it.
We're going to do it.
I am not so sure.
Now, Joan, you've spent nearly all your life on that island, and you're far more impressed with the power of those Euclidean scientists than I am.
Yet you admit that they have advanced to a degree that your world cannot hope to contend with.
Of course, I admit that. But Captain Bradford knows what he's doing every time he starts out to do anything. And while taking over that island may be the biggest job he's ever attempted, we'll come out all right.
I hope so, for your sake.
Joan, dear, you're very depressed. And that's unusual for you.
I am sorry that you should see me so, Mother. On Euclidia, we are taught to display no emotion. That did not seem difficult while I was there. But after a glimpse of your world, I realize that emotions are very necessary things. It is better to feel sorrow than to feel nothing at all.
I think I understand, dear. And one of these days, we'll come back home again and stay there all the rest of our lives.
I hope so.
Oh, boy. I'm sorry. I thought this was my cabin.
That's all right, Jerry. Come on in and talk to us for a while.
I didn't mean to come busting in like that, but Captain Bradford said this was the cabin that he and I were going to use.
Well, that's my fault, Jerry. I thought this one would be more convenient for Joan and me, and I had our things brought in here.
Oh, hello, Joan.
How do you do?
Oh, what's the matter with you?
Not a thing.
Well, you look to me like everything was wrong.
Joan's feeling badly about leaving home so suddenly, Jerry, and I can't say that I blame her. We promised to show her a great many things in our world, and in less than 48 hours after landing in Los Angeles, we're leaving it again.
Yeah, I know how you feel, Joan. I felt sort of funny, too, when I had to run away without saying goodbye to Dad.
You did not see your father?
No.
Jerry, do you mean that you left on this trip without getting your father's permission?
Well, he knew I wanted to come with you, and he didn't say I couldn't. But when I went home the last time to get my clothes, well, I couldn't find him.
I'm very sorry about that, Jerry. You should send him a radio message at least. And if he doesn't want you to go, well, we'll put about and take you back to the harbor at once.
Oh, now, you won't have to do that. Dad knows I'm just as safe here with you as I would be in Hollywood with Euclideans all over the place.
How far have we come from Los Angeles?
Well, the captain said we were just 25 miles out when I left him in the radio room.
We're making good time then.
We sure are. But it's a long way to the Magic Island.
Yes, and many things may happen before we arrive there.
Gee whiz, Joan, you give me the willies.
Jerry?
Yes, Mrs. Gregory?
Why don't you take Joan out on deck? She's doing too much thinking about this cruise.
I do not care to go out on deck.
Boy, you're sure good company.
Now, Joan, dear, I want you to go with Jerry. Now, I have a number of things to do here. Putting the cabin in order, and a turn around the deck will do you both a lot of good. Then we must get some rest.
4 bells. 2 o'clock in the morning. Does that remind you of anything, Mrs. Gregory?
Well, it reminds me that it's long after bedtime.
No, I didn't mean that. Don't you remember the last time we sailed out of the harbor to look for Joan and that island? The ship's clock struck 4 bells as we left the harbor.
Why, that's right, Jerry. And a lot has happened since then.
And much more will happen before we return here.
Oh, stop that crying around, will you? Come on out on deck and we'll look at the dark.
You cannot see the dark.
Oh, maybe not. But you sure can't see anything else when it is dark.
You could see light very easily in the dark.
Now, you two stop arguing and go out.
We'll go out, Mrs. Gregory. But don't make Joan stop arguing. When she argues, I know she's all right. Come on, Joan. We'll look the boat over.
I will not be long, Mother.
Stay as long as you wish. It'll do you good.
Boy, isn't this a swell night, Joan?
It is a very dark night.
Oh, sure. But it makes me feel good to get out in the water and smell the salt air.
I am glad you like it.
Joan Gregory, you listen to me. If you don't snap out of it and hold your chin up, I'm going to quit trying to talk to you at all.
It might be as well, since you say nothing when you speak.
Oh, is that so? All right. Come on, then. We'll walk around the deck like your mother wants us to. But I won't say a word to you. Not a word. Did you hear me? I'm not going to talk to you.
Very well.
Why don't you say something?
I prefer the silence.
All right, all right. You'll get it. Sounds sort of funny when I don't talk, huh?
I could not say. You are always talking.
What's the matter with you? You don't like it when I talk, and you don't like it when I keep still. You don't like it in the cabin, and now you don't like it out here on the deck.
That's you, Jerry. Just started out to find you.
Yeah, it's me. And Joan.
You two can hear something mighty interesting. Come on the radio cabin.
What is it, Captain Bradford?
We know that girl submarine commander is following us in a Euclidean submarine. I think we're now hearing one of the scientists on the island talking to her by radio.
Gee, let's hurry up and see about it. Come on, Joan.
I think it is very doubtful, Captain.
We ought to pick up the island easy enough if their signal is strong enough to be heard in the submarine.
Oh, sure we could. Is it set on now, Captain?
Right where I heard the signals before.
Well, then let's listen in. Maybe we'll hear them again.
Was it the voice of G-47 you heard, Captain?
No, it didn't sound like him, but the signal was so faint I couldn't be sure.
If it was not G-47, you were not listening to the island.
Hey, he isn't the only scientist who knows how to run that transmission set.
No, but he is the only one who would be issuing instructions under these conditions.
Well, how can you be sure of that, Joe?
The Euclidean submarine which is following us is under orders now. Those orders will not be changed except in an emergency, at which time G-47 would give the orders.
Well, maybe there's an emergency we don't know anything about. Maybe that girl commander's having trouble with the boat.
Might be that.
I think not. Euclidean submarines do not have trouble.
Now, wait a minute, Joan. Before you figure the captain's all wrong, why don't you find out what it is he thought he heard?
Very well.
Well, I know what I heard. That girl submarine commander was talking to one of the Euclideans, and she was being ordered to change her course.
S1 to control. S1 to control.
There she is now.
Quiet, Jerry. Well, Joan?
It did sound like the commander, and she was calling the radio control. That could mean but one thing, the main transmission
S1
chamber on
to
Euclidia.
control. Commander S1 requesting control beams. Commander S1 to base control.
Well, she's not getting any action very fast.
Doesn't that sound as if she's calling the island, Joan?
It does indeed. Her request for a control beam from base control can mean but one thing. She is in difficulty or has unusual news to report.
Why doesn't someone on Euclidia answer?
There may be some reason for the signals going unanswered.
Can you think of any of the reasons?
A sudden change in plans, which will be given to her as soon as they are formulated.
But couldn't they call her and tell her that?
Certainly not.
Funny way these Euclideans have of playing this game. One of their best submarine commanders asking for a radio beam. And they won't even bother to answer a signal. They make up their minds what to tell her.
S1 to Gregory Boat. S1 to Gregory Boat.
Hey, Tex, she's calling us.
Let's find out what she wants.
Commander S1 calling Gregory Boat. You will answer at once.
Yeah, she's calling us all right.
Steady, Jerry. This may be a trick of some kind. What do you think, Joan?
This is most unusual, Captain. We know that she is following us in a Euclidean submarine, but we also know that she has orders to follow us to Euclidia and do nothing to hinder our progress toward the island.
Then you don't know any more about what she might have in mind than we do.
I have no way of determining that.
Well, then let's take a chance and answer her. She might have.
S1 calling the Gregory Boat. You will answer immediately. Your safety depends on answer. S1 to Gregory Boat. Waiting. Waiting.
Our safety depends on it, she said.
Well, maybe we're in some danger that she knows about.
It might be advisable to answer.
Well, I'll take your advice, Joan, but it sounds like a trick to me. Captain Bradford on Gregory Boat. Calling Commander S1. Bradford to S1. Go ahead, S1. Go ahead.
You are very slow in your response, Captain Bradford. I have information for you. Listen carefully. Do you hear me clearly? Answer.
Go ahead, S1. We are getting you perfectly. Go ahead.
You are well aware of my mission. My submarine is following you at a distance of 100 yards and at
Boy, she's close to us.
My orders are to see that you reach the island in safety. That safety is threatened. Thales on board. Personal revenge. Thales on board. Revenge. Search.
Gee, she faded out. She started to tell us something about Thales being on board a boat, and that was the end of it.
Wait for a minute. Commander S1, Bradford to S1. You faded out. Repeat your message. Bradford calling S1. Can you hear me, S1? Well, whatever happened, it sure silenced her radio set. Not a sound from her now.
Apparently, Thales is planning to take matters into his own hands. He is seeking revenge.
Revenge for what?
Did the captain not outwit him in Los Angeles?
Well, I guess I did at that. I managed to record his voice, but how could he know that?
Well, how could a lot of things happen? This is getting more mixed up all the time. Now Thales is on board that submarine with a girl planning to do something to our boat, and she tried to warn us.
Looks that way, Jerry, and from the way her message was faded out, I'd say Thales had taken command of the sub away from her.
Yeah, she said Thales on board, and she didn't sound like she wanted him there either.
Captain Jerry!
Yes, what is it?
Her warning meant more than that. How stupid of me not to realize instantly just how great our danger was. When she said Thales on board, she meant on board this boat.
On
Thales is
board
on
this
our boat?
Precisely. Thales is on this boat.